All right, Julia Salata, post-match. I got your pre-match here. Post-match, the girls' high school wrestling duel here in Central Ohio. Give us your thoughts on the way you think the match went.
Oh, it was awesome. And people are getting so into it, too. I mean, obviously there was a big contingent here for Owen Tangy, but to see people getting excited about how it was winning, to see the girls getting exciting and how much emotion they had, it was a big deal for them. And it's such a cool thing. When I was in high school, I never could imagine having an opportunity like this to compete in this arena and to, be a headliner in this event in this space, and it was just so cool. I was getting shows at a couple of points, seeing those girls cheering on their teammates. I mean, it was pretty awesome. And even like some of the event staff, they were talking about it. Look at those girls down there, like wow, that girl is so, to see people that maybe aren't necessarily wrestling people not only appreciate wrestling, but to appreciate women's wrestling is really special. So I was really happy with how it went. I think all the coaches and all the girls were really happy with how it went. And it was a competitive duel too. I mean, really until those last two weights, it was back and forth. So it's really cool and really happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, and we talked earlier again. So you're a fierce competitor, wins and losses. I know that there were some girls that didn't want to lose. Mm-hmm. They come all the way here from Gettysburg, and they lose. Some of them, it was a quick match. That's not really what today's all about.
No, right.
And what I saw was the joy with the girl that got her hand raised. It's no different for girls versus boys getting their hand raised. What kind of feeling did those girls have on this big stage in Central Ohio? What do you think they got out of this today?
I mean, what a cool experience for them, you know what I mean? To be appreciated for what they do. Part of the opinion on girls wrestling sometimes is that it's like the weird thing to do. When they're in high school and they're with their classmates, like, oh, you're a girl and you wrestle. And maybe they deal with some judgment in their day-to-day lives with their classmates, teammates, and other sports they may play. And to come into this space and be accepted and appreciated for what you do is so awesome. Even if they didn't win today, to have an arena full of people that came here to watch you and appreciate and respect what you do has to be so huge and so rewarding and so validating for them. That what they're doing is important. And I hope they just realize how big this was, not just for them and their programs, but how big this was for women's wrestling as a whole. And how many eyes we got to have on our sport today. The duel's going to be posted later tonight, and I hope it blows up and goes everywhere to say that these girls competed at the Ohio State University ahead of a big Division I duel meet. And these girls can really just know they did something important for us. I say us as the women's wrestling community and wrestling a girl in their own schools, but win or lose, that was way more important than anything they could have done. I mean, the optics of this event were so important. Everything went off without a hitch. I mean, Coach Handy saying, I think I mentioned this earlier, like, for some of these girls, this is their first match ever. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I don't think they understand the magnitude of this.
Right.
And to them, it's just like, oh, this is just what wrestling is. We go and compete. And, like, they're going to be able to look back on this and be like, man, I was a part of that. My first match ever was in the Cavelli Center. And that's cool. That's an opportunity that I never had. I kind of envy them a little bit better, honestly. But I mean, they should be proud of that.
Well, being envious is not necessarily a bad thing because these girls can leap off your back. You're a pioneer, but there was ladies obviously before you that you leapt off of their back, and there's no turning back on how high this thing can go. You mentioned one thing, and then I'll let you go. I know we've talked a lot here. You mentioned one thing that's taboo, and I want to point it out. It's not weird to be a girl wrestler on a boys team. We have to grow this sport. So it might take that first girl, that pulling in that second girl. And right now they might have to wrestle on a boys team until they get the numbers that Owen Tangy Orange and Gettysburg has in order to get the girls here. From your standpoint, talk to the boys that are giving trouble to the girls and making them feel weird.
I mean, there's so many stereotypes on women's wrestling still. Obviously, there's been significant improvement since my days, in the 2000s. But you can be a good teammate, and I think that's so important. It's like I feel like a lot of gatekeeping sometimes, where the guys feel like they need to protect the space. That room is for men's wrestlers, and even if they're not like outright bullying the girls, there's still kind of this hesitation about them being in there rather than embracing it. And I think honestly, when I was in high school, it took me winning Fargo for my male teammates started accepting me. Because now it was like, oh, I was the cool girl on the team. She's the national champion. It's like, well, why did it take that? Why did it take my success? Why didn't you want to be a part of that, help you build into that?
Right.
I think that's what these guys can do is realize what your female teammates can accomplish. Why don't you want to be a part of that process, support them and uplift them, and then be proud of them, you know what I mean? A team is only as strong as their weakest link, and that girl might be your starter someday. That might be your next All-State wrestler, and you have no idea.
Yeah.
If it was a guy to me that walked in for the first time and it was an athletic kid, or not an athletic kid, but wanted to be there and love the sport and love the process, you would embrace that. So if a female walks in the room, why not give them that same opportunity? Give them that same motivation, that same, that level of camaraderie that you see in men's wrestling. That's your teammate. It's not your female teammate, that's your teammate. Women's wrestling is out right now. I mean, get on board, join the movement, and just buy in. that's a male teammate, that's coaches of a men's team, whatever it may be. You know, for the majority of the girls in the country right now, being on a men's team isn't their only option. We're making a lot of progress in that regard with state sanctioning, but for a lot of girls, that's their only opportunity to compete if they want to wrestle. And we just want to make sure it's an inclusive space for them, that they're being supported, and they're developing as athletes and as people, and you know, buy into that, and be a part of that change, be a part of that growth.
All right, thanks for bridging that divide. It's something that, you know, not everybody talks about, but it happens every single day in rooms. So
Absolutely.
thanks for bringing it or talking about that. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.